So this week I'm going to try and do tour videos of the kitchen garden, my allotment and Debbie's allotment, so you can see the whole range of everything that we've got growing. And first up is my allotment. I'm going to start off with the polytunnel, and I'm well on really with preparing this for spring and even summer actually. So let's just take a quick look at what we've got on this little grow bench. We've got mainly, in fact all, salad onions. My early main crop onions are in the mini greenhouse. I've got my first succession of red cabbages sown this year, and then these are just the last few that I've got for that I sowed back in autumn last year. And then we've got loads of the strawberries in the hanging baskets, and hopefully we'll get harvest of those late April, early May. This is primarily down here a lettuce bed. It's doing pretty well, although I've lost quite a few plants to stem rot, which is a common experience for me. I don't really know what I can do about it. I've tried all sorts of different things, and to be honest, I don't really care that much, because by the time I start losing the plants, I've got plenty of lettuce. But I don't like gaps, so I kind of filled in the gaps with little plugs of tatsoi and other lettuces. And of course I've got loads and loads of onions in here as well, which are a mix, the sort of salad onions in the centres of the bed, and then round the edge of the bed there's the earliest succession of bulbing onions to be harvested in kind of, late April, kind of May time. And then you'll see I've got lots of other bulbing onions to be harvested in June and July. So these are the lettuces that actually did the best, I think, this year. These are Roxy, real superstars. Quite a bit better actually than the Grenoble Red this year, although some years are the inverse of that. That was celery fruiting in spring, but it all got killed in the big freeze. But fortunately I've got lots of celery coming on really nicely in the conservatory, and so I'll soon get that replanted. Parsley looking pretty good, and I just did these little troughs rather of spinach to see how well they would do, and actually they've been moderately useful as a source of quite nice little spinach leaves for salads. Lettuces, calabrese and cauliflowers, and then these are all leeks here. These are just the early leeks to go in the polytunnel for an early harvest, and I'll have main crop leeks sown in March. And then here we've got the third regrowth on the miner's lettuce, or Claytonia. What a crop that has been, and it's all a bit flopped over because I've just finished watering it. What's happening with my broad beans? They're not looking good. All this curled up growth here looks like weed killer contamination in the compost, and that would be a real blow, because I think that's my homemade compost, and the only contamination source of that would be the horse manure that we get on site. So that would be a real blow. Anyway, try not to worry about that. Started to clear finished clearing the tatsoi and the red pak choi and the lettuces that were in this bed. This is all now replanted with beetroot down the edges, which will stay in until, certainly May, but probably through until June time. Then down the centre, where this tatsoi and red pak choi is now, that's where the early peppers are going to go. And so I'll leave the beetroot in, and there's plenty of room for both. And sort of similar sort of story here. We've got tatsoi coming on really nicely, and then we've got radishes, and then beetroot again down the outside. And then we've got the last of the salad rocket. It's just going to seed now, so that'll be out probably next week. And these are my new season carrots. These were sown 25th of October, and they're coming on really nicely. Very happy with those. So these are the ones we'll be eating in May, once the ones I show you outside are finished. And now we've got a bit more parsley, the only chard that survived the big freeze, and a bit of celery that might actually pull through, but it probably won't last very long before it goes to seed. So as I say, I've got replacements for all of that. So that is pretty much it, apart from lots more strawberries, and I have got some lettuce that I've just popped in these hanging baskets, and it's notable to see how well this is doing in the hanging baskets. These seem to be almost the perfect place for growing lettuce early and late in the season. You know, they get the most light and the most heat, and they're the furthest away from the slugs. So yeah, really happy with these. Even though I've got loads of other lettuce, I just like seeing them in the hanging baskets, and yeah, quite a delight. On to my plot. All 3 compost bays are full, which is always a nice place to be. First bed here, these are shallots, golden gourmet, interplanted with salad onions, and I will just have a little bit of fleece over this just to protect those salad onions for the next few weeks, pretty much until April actually. And then this bed and this bed, these are going to be brassicas, so main crop brassicas, Brussels sprouts and colettes, and so they haven't even been sown yet. So those mid-March to plant out in early May. So this bed's going to pretty much sit idle, I think, because there's not many things you can actually grow between now and May and actually get a harvest out of them. Leeks down here, leeks down here, and then the last of the colettes, and the last of the Brussels sprouts. And this bed is going to be, what is it going to be? Can't even remember. I think it's going to be leeks. And then this little bed, which has been under fleece all through winter, is my spring crop of lamb's lettuce, which is looking really nice, but it'll go to seed really quickly, so it'll need to be harvested fairly soon. And then some more overwintered red cabbages, and then I've just got a few red cabbages left, which are going to go down the centre here where these lamb's lettuce are. And I've got lots more lamb's lettuce back at home in the kitchen garden, which basically looks about the same size as this stuff. So yeah, that row basically is my next one to pick, and some salad onions down the outside. Gooseberries just coming into leaf, and then I've got my claret, which is a late purple sprouting broccoli, and that shouldn't be in flower until April. And then this is, I can't remember, this one is red fire, and this is the early purple sprouting broccoli. It's just finishing. And then this one here, I think would be red admiral, and this is the one that's just coming into flower now. So yeah, really looking forward to harvesting this. Got a lot of undercover beds, so I'm quickly going to go through these because I like to focus on results, and right now there's just a lot of early plantings and no results for you to see. Apart from carrots, these are standing really well in the ground. Very happy with them, so much better than storing them in sacks or sand or anything like that, but you do need to kind of protect them a little bit, so I've got these coir foam tops over them. In the gaps in between the carrots, I've got lettuces, which are all coming on now quite nicely. These coir foams, more carrots, and in this one more carrots interplanted with lettuces, and these lettuces are doing really nicely. So these were sown 10th of January, and they're looking really smart now. And this was a winter lettuce bed has just been replanted with cauliflowers and radish and calabrese and radish. A lot of spinach, so I'm going to take you through from oldest to newest. The oldest bed, just cleared it today and replanted it with kales and cabbages. Second oldest, looking pretty good still. And I'm going to start harvesting every other plant and putting in parsnips, and then harvesting the rest of the spinach and interplanting into that parsnip bed with zebrun shallots. Third oldest, which is still looking really nice, and I've just started taking out the back row and putting in little beetroot, and soon I'll take out that plant as well and that plant and put more beetroot in. So soon I'll have beetroot at the backs of lots of these beds, and that gives me a lovely early harvest. And in fact, I don't do, or I'm not planning to do, any summer beetroot this year in dedicated beds. I'm just using the backs of all my other beds. So this is one of my young beds, and we're harvesting this one for baby leaf for our salads right now, but pretty soon it will kind of start growing so quickly that we won't be able to get baby leaf off it, and we'll switch over to this bed, which is slightly younger. We'll have this baby leaf off this one and mature leaf for cooking off the other one, and then this one will go to mature leaf for cooking. I mean, this is my youngest bed, and actually it's pretty much caught up with the other one, but anyway, this will be baby leaf and then mature leaf. And at the back of this one I've got my early peas under this little low tunnel, and the low tunnel comes off in April, and obviously by then this spinach will probably have been harvested and cleared, and this bed will have been replanted. And same here, I've got more little baby peas, and they're growing pretty well actually. They've doubled in size in the last few weeks. And then in here we've got lettuces being grown for little hearts. They're kind of like a red little gem. So this is my asparagus bed, but what I found is that you can plant onions into your asparagus bed, because the asparagus is deep rooted and you're harvesting the asparagus every few days, so it never gets very big. You can interplant into it with bulbing onions. So we've got a mix of red and white bulbing onions here, and these will all be harvested out of this bed by the time the asparagus is left to grow on. Similar sort of idea here. I've got trees, 2 apple trees and a cherry tree, and then kind of interplanted into those trees we've got the elephant garlic, and this is coming on really nicely. I like to harvest some of the elephant garlic as leeks, so effectively I thin this bed out, and elephant garlic is in the leek family. It makes a really nice leek alternative, and then you can leave some of them in to harvest the bulbs. Objectives this year is to grow more fruit, and so I've got a blueberry in there, a guava berry in there, and a blueberry in here. Raspberries along the edge of the plot here to grow up between these wires. Perpetual or ever-bearing strawberries, Mara de Bois perhaps, in this bed interplanted with garlic. Got my second early strawberries down here, and I've just popped this little kind of cold frame side on here so that I can pop a cold frame lid on these to bring them on a little bit once we get into spring. Strawberries in tubs, some of which will go into the polytunnel to be brought on a little bit, just so I get a nice continuous harvest. Back to onions for a minute. I've got these various onions down here, and these are all onions for sort of the June time frame. Got these Asian greens, which are just finishing over the next 2 weeks, and then this will actually be replanted back again with Asian greens, which I don't mind doing because after that it's going to be peppers. So I need a quick growing crop just to fill that sort of gap between early March and mid-May. Tatsoi, which I already showed you, I think. I've got some more early lettuces. These are from November sowing, planted out in December. I'll just take you through the brassicas. So these are the brassicas we're kind of harvesting right now, and you'll see we've got lots back at home in the kitchen garden as well, but these will last the longest, and they're all looking pretty nice. And then as soon as these finish, we'll have peppers in this little low tunnel. This little low tunnel, which was one of the carrot beds we've just finished harvesting, I've just popped in these Brussels sprouts, which I grow for a lush leaf harvest through spring, and then when we get into summer we start harvesting them for sprout tops, and that brings on the actual Brussels sprouts, and then we harvest the Brussels sprouts. And I saw somewhere that somebody said that Brussels sprouts in summer are horrible. Well, I've obviously never had Brussels sprouts in summer because they're amazing. We've got these spring cabbages, which are all looking pretty good, and we've got Claytonia sort of interplanted into these. These plants are pretty much finished, but the rest of them, like those, are still looking pretty lush. And finally, the last of the brassicas. We've got Calabrese interplanted with radishes, and more cauliflowers interplanted with radishes. So I think we've got 15 cauliflowers and 15 Calabrese this year, and have started getting ready for summer for my winter squash plants. So I've put in the halos, sunk them down 6 inches into the wood chip mulch, and popped in the plant pots and the support frames, and I've done the same down here, just the same there. Putting the support posts for the early peas, putting the halos down the edge of this fence again for the climbing squash. So I hope you like these quick videos. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.